Welcome, everybody, to another exciting episode of HomeKit Insider. You've got me, your host, as always, Andrew O'Hara. Joining me this week, it is Dan Turk from Max Borges Agency. How you doing again, man?
I'm good. It's good to be back. I think my first episode, I wore this sweatshirt, and I'm wearing it again. So we are, what's old is new again.
I thought you were going to show up with your Five Timers Club jacket. You know, SNL
I didn't
style.
get it in the... Did you send it? It must have arrived somewhere else.
Oh, I must have had the wrong address.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dang it. We should seriously make those, though. That sounds cool. I would represent HKI pretty much everywhere if I had one of those jackets.
I mean, it's easy enough to make. I don't know if anyone's ever done those the merch on demand stuff from Amazon. Like, you literally just upload artwork, anyone can do it, and then you immediately have whatever available on Amazon. They just print it on demand when you want it. So, we just come up with a design and print them up on demand. Easy peasy.
I didn't know that
Maybe,
existed. That's pretty cool. I might use that system now. That sounds great.
I mean, they do limit it severely. Like, you can only upload one design a day and things like that. So you can't, because I'm sure someone would just use AI and spin up 100 designs every minute and just blow up Amazon with random designs. So
there's probably a lot of copyright protection also. You can't use other logos and things like that.
Yeah, exactly. I tried to put a picture of, I don't know, I tried to think of celebrity and I couldn't think of anyone but Matthew McConaughey. And just put Matthew McConaughey's on a shirt and it wouldn't work. You'd be like, that's a face. You can't use his face.
Hey.
Oh man. Real quick too, we got new things to play with since last week, right? Has it been yeah. Which one did you go with? It was quick. I couldn't see it on camera.
So like many, I had a moment on the lips of I need the air. And then I did a little soul searching and just decided, you know what, that would make me happy for about an hour. So I went with the Pro Max. Very happy with it. This is my first. I was a staunch Apple leather case guy for a while. I switched to Smartish a few years ago and was very happy with that because I didn't love the new what do they call it? The thread woven or what is?
There was fine woven, which was hot garbage, and now there's tech woven, which is much better, but I still don't love it.
So that's what I'm rocking. I don't mind the feeling. It's pretty nice so far, and I like the look of it. But we'll see how it holds up over time because the fine woven, from what I understood, pilled a lot and it wasn't great material. Yeah. So we'll see. When in doubt, I will always switch back to Smartish. They've been I don't know, one of the number one cases I can imagine for the last decade when it comes to iPhone.
I know a lot of people really like the Smartish ones because they have really good grip down the side. They have literally one I think called the Grip Monk or something, which is just a fun name.
That's what I was rocking before. This is my old case, and you could see it's hard to see on the camera, but there's a lot of grippy texture there. It's great.
Yeah, but the fine or the tech woven, I just don't like. I want it to wrap. I do not like the cases that do the TPU sides or the plastic or rubber sides and then the leather or the material canvas whatever on the back. So Apple did that. They put the tech woven fibers on the back and then they wrapped it with the sides are just TPU or plastic or whatever. A lot of other companies that do leather cases will do that and I don't like those. I want it to wrap fully around.
You want the unibody experience for your case.
Yeah. If the tech woven went around the sides, I would probably be all over it. But there's just something about it. I don't like, I don't know. The sides feel cheap then because they're plasticky versus the material itself feels really nice. I know it with leather, I know it's hard. There's a lot of companies I've talked to we wanted to, but it's really hard to meet the level that Apple would do the leather because when you wrap it around, you have to get it so thin in those corners that it's not going to prevent the phone from going in. And it's really, really hard for people to do it to Apple's level. And we've only seen a few companies do it. I know Bullstrap and Nomad and maybe Burr or I can't even think of all these different names now, but I know a few have figured them out in recent years, but still, I don't know.
Yeah. Well, here we are talking about the cases. What do you think about the phone itself? What did you get?
Okay, so I have the 17 Pro, but I also have the Air here in the studio, and it's like a week later. And honestly, I'm like, which one am I going to actually use? Like, I'm still so torn
Ooh,
on
okay.
what to act. Dude, I love the Air so much. Like, when I carry it around, I'm like, this is it. This is the phone. This is so much better. It is so thin. I can't even feel it in my pocket half the time. Like, wait, shoot, where did I leave my phone? Oh no, it's in my pocket. It is just that thin and light and comfortable that I love it. Reading and stuff like in bed, it's so much like lighter. It's easier to hold when I'm holding a baby. Like it's a good size. It's a little bit bigger than the
Which one
Pro,
is
but
the baby?
smaller than the
Which one
Pro
is the phone?
Max.
I can't even tell.
Oh my gosh, they're. Am I even holding it, baby? Oh, it's right there. But I just like it so much, and it looks so nice. I'm just torn about the cameras. I've been trying to kind of use them both a little bit and see where I fall in my camera usage. Because I'll admit, I just don't use the telephoto lens all that much. If anything, I'm probably using like cinematic mode more, and there's no cinematic mode on the Air. So that may be the killer just for random things
Yeah.
like recording TikToks and stuff like that from the phone. Like at least gives you some level of blur without having to pull out the actual camera. So I like that. Depending on where I am, can be really helpful. Like if I'm out in public or something, I just think it looks a little bit better using cinematic mode. So like that might be reason enough to do it. I know some people also didn't like the mono speaker, and then I realized after the last one, like, man, I just don't ever listen to landscape videos on speaker ever. My AirPods are going in, or it's like a vertical video where it's actually nicer because then your fingers don't block the speaker on the bottom. Because I've noticed it's like louder through the bottom speakers on pros and prior phones,
Yeah.
and sometimes my fingers would block it at the bottom when you're holding it up. So now like within coming out of the top one louder, that's never an issue. So I kind of liked that in an odd sort of way,
So
but
the
I don't know.
Yeah, my biggest consideration wasn't necessarily the photography or the camera, for that matter. I also love cinematic mode, by the way, and that's one of the reasons I went pro. But more than that, I think battery life was the big deal for me. I just think computational photography and videography is good enough today that like it would have been. I'm not a content creator. It would have been neither here nor there for me. I capture pictures of my kids and like my clients' products, and that's basically it. In like not professional settings. So for me, I probably could have gotten away with just the Air's cameras or camera. But yeah, how's the battery life? Are you finding it's lasting, or are you going to need that big humpback battery?
Okay, so it's a little bit hard to tell because I am like rocking multiple phones. I am also like whatever you want to call a power user, just because I'm creating content, photographing, filming all day with that, and it's happening on multiple phones because I have like my regular one. Like I couldn't even move really fully over because I was waiting for my Dexcom sensor to end, and then I had like an Air with it. It was a whole thing, but it's been back and forth. So half of them I'm not even charging it at night. So like I'm finding like, oh, I'm like half through the day and I need to charge. I'm like, also I haven't really charged it since like yesterday morning. So it seems like it's making it plenty long enough. Battery is fine, but I also am someone who works from the home studio
Right.
most of the time. But my opinion on the matter is I like it because it's like the best of both worlds. People make that compare like, oh, look at that. Do you want to get an Air and then you just have to put a battery on it and it's thicker and more expensive than a Pro, blah blah blah. But I'm like, no, you get a thin and light phone. What 90% of the time, and
Yeah.
then when there are instances that you need more juice, you put on a battery pack,
Yeah.
and
I
then you
think
can take
like
that right back off again.
yeah, be an adult. Like know the situation that you're in. If you're going out for the day and you know you're going to need some battery, you used to have to bring your charger and tether yourself to a wall. Like you bring something that's the size of your wallet and you rock that for the day or when you need it. Like you don't have to hold it like that the whole time. So yeah,
Yeah.
oh man, I'm regretting my decision a bit.
I mean, there's so much battery tech too these days. Like the Anchor one, I've got, I think I have it right behind me. But these ones are just as thin as the Apple one. So like this is crazy, crazy thin. Apple has their dedicated one for the Air, right? We've got that one. And then like I started looking at BMX is launching. Like they are some of the people from Hyper that spun off to start their own thing, and they're launching like solid state batteries, and they have like a multi docking station, which I really like. I think RAV4 did one in the past too, but that way you like your batteries are docked, so they're always ready to go. And I'm like, I like that solution where your battery is just perpetually ready, and then in those times you need it, you pick it up and you put it on. So I don't know. I'm like the best of both worlds kind of guy. Like,
Yeah, I really like
the
that
benefit.
opinion, and yeah, I've totally. I'm regretting my decision 100% now. You know what the other thing is? People always ask me like, "Oh, I used to live in Canada, and it was nice weather sometimes, but cold sometimes, and now you live in Florida. What's that like?" I'm like, I don't know. I go from my air conditioned house, thank God, to like my air conditioned car, and to the air conditioned office, to the air conditioned mall and restaurant and this and that. Like it's the same thing with battery. Like I'm sitting at my desk working from home. I'm charging it on my standby dock. I go to my car. I plug it in for CarPlay or wireless CarPlay, and it's charging and whatnot. I get to my office. I play. So like there aren't many moments where I'm not juicing it up anyways that I need to worry about the battery problem. Oh man, I've completely talked myself out of this. I hope maybe I'm in the 14-day period. I don't know. I don't think I am anymore.
Well, let's pivot a little. We're going to get an inch closer to actual smart home news here, but you mentioned the chargers, and that is something that I think a lot of people are starting to experience, the new, faster Qi 2.2 25-watt chargers. So you're going to get 25-watt charging on the Pros. The Air does only get 22-watt charging, but that's still, impressive charging speeds. And I already have several of them like here on my desk. I have like the Belkin one that was like the very first one to be certified and on the market. Cuxio also just launched one. They have like their little foldy up one. If you've seen these, are pretty sweet, and they got like the Apple Watch charger in the middle, and somehow their Qi 2.21 is even thinner, which I think is crazy. And I literally asked them like, how did you make it thinner while making the wattage higher? Like, wouldn't that be more constricting? And they're like, I don't know, something about like heat's able to dissipate easier, but they're like, it did pass all of the Qi 2.2 certification stuff, which has very strict requirements for speed or heat and thermals and everything. So like it never gets above whatever the temperature that they set is for that, which is really cool. So like that's a really tiny one. And then the one I've just been starting to play with is it's plugged in, but it's from ESR, just launched theirs, and it's like a 3-in-1 2 setup, and theirs has the cryo boost, like their active cooling, just like the Belkin one does. It's got a fast charge Apple Watch puck that's removable and AirPods at the bottom. But the point of all this is it is so fast, it's amazing. Like this morning I forgot to charge my phone last night. 2% battery life. I just sat down here at my desk to set everything up for the podcast, and then I look at my phone and I'm at 50%. I'm like, I was only doing this like 10 minutes or something. Like it was so fast.
That's amazing. Yeah.
I'm like, this is it. Like you don't have to, I feel like you don't have to think about charging as much when it can go so fast. And my phone's not hot, which is the important thing. I don't know if it's the cryo boost cooling or like the vapor chamber cooling that is in the Pros, but like my phone is barely even warm, and it did 50% in, it's probably been like 20 minutes, but not long. And it's just really, really nice. Like I'm very excited for more of these, especially for like in the car. Like I go to the store, I'm like, it's like a 5-7 minute drive. Like I need my phone to be actually charged, and you can actually get some juice out of it at those higher speeds with active cooling in there. I'm excited for it.
Yeah, I think this is. I have another client in a completely different category, EcoBax, who we've talked about ad nauseum. They, in their X11, their Dbot X11 that they just launched at IFA in Berlin a few weeks ago, put fast charging in their station as well.
I saw that. I thought that was so smart to charge whenever it goes back to the dock, even for a minute, whatever it is. Like,
exactly. And I think that is when someone starts talking in any category about all day battery life or like never needing to charge, like that's what we need to do. Is that every time you park your device somewhere, it's picking up 10%, 6%, whatever it is, a boost. And you do that enough times during the day, it's perpetual. And so that's what Ecovacs is focusing on. They want a perpetual cleaning robot that can do 5,000 square foot houses without having to stop and recharge for 3 hours. And yeah, if the phones can accomplish that every time you go to the car, every time you sit at your desk, I think that's the move. And again, talking myself out of my purchase because maybe Air was the right move then on that one. Quick question about the ESR one. I had a model from years ago with the what did you call it? The active cooling or whatever it's called.
They call it Cryo Boost.
The Cryo Boost, yeah. And it used to have this like blue LED that would light up while you're cryo boosting, and you couldn't turn it off. And I would have it next to my bed at night, and that blue light was so bright. Does the new one still have that? Yeah. And can you turn it off?
Well, there is a button here at the bottom.
But there was a button on the old one also, but it wouldn't really work. Like it would work for 5 seconds, and then the second the cryo boost went back on, it would. Okay.
I mean,
so that's a big fix. If that's I might reconsider going back with them then.
I don't know. The active cooling is really important, but yeah, the blue light isn't my aesthetic either because I don't know, it feels more like gamer and techie, and while I am techie, I don't do the RGB over the head gamer aesthetic too much.
He says as he rocks a blue Eve flare behind him.
Yeah, Harrison now comes down the basement and he sees that thing and he just keeps wanting to take it. And I'm like, stop taking my set dressing.
I'm going to send Harrison a new one for his room. I have one in each of my kids' rooms and they love it. And what we do is when we read like bedtime stories and things like that, they'll change the colors of the flare to match the colors on the page or like the planets that we're looking at in the page in the book from my phone. So God forbid we should put the screen away at any point in time. But they like making the lights all connect with their whatever their activity is.
I know. I set him up with one of the big Aqara toggle buttons because they're like big, like 3x3 squares, and it's like a paddle switch, so it's really easy to press, and they're wireless, like they're Zigbee, so he can just carry it around, and when we go into bed at night, he presses the button, and it like turns off the lights, turns on a night light, and then turns on his Govee Starlight projector, all like with Matter. Nice. For that one. So he loves to go in and press the button before bed. When I get everything else changed, it's also going to like light up his smart bed and close the shades. But we're
you're like gateway drugging him into being a smart home guy. I like it.
Okay.
It starts with the buttons.
Maybe
it ends
at some
with the
point.
Smart bed.
Yeah, of course. Maybe at some point we should talk specifically about some smart home stuff. I guess.
We'll get there.
This is also going to be a slow push into the smart home because this isn't even Apple Home specific. So this is the Ultraloq Bolt NFC. I know.
Next week is going to be.
This lock has been around for a hot second to this point, and it already supports HomeKey. But now they are introducing a new update to the UHome app for Android that brings that same HomeKey experience to Android operating system. And what I'm curious about, Dan, I don't know enough about Android to know what the impact of doing this would be. But what they do is they kind of replace like the default NFC handler for the phone and replace it with the UHome app. So like that is like, I guess, what is like detecting like NFC stuff. And when they set the UHome app to do that, it allows them to take their Android phone, to tap their lock, immediately authenticate, and get into the house. So like you don't have to put in your code, you don't have to, Face ID or thumbprint or passcode. You don't have to open up the app, nothing like that. It really is like that perfect home key experience on Android. But they're doing it in this little workaround way because they are able on Android to replace like the default, NFC handler. But I don't know if there's trade-offs, like would that impact things like tap to pay at all, or I'm trying to think of other instances where you would use NFC. Like, would you still be able to use NFC if you're using that for other home automations or anything like that by replacing it with the U Home app? I don't know, but it is really cool they were able to find a way to make this work.
So is it replacing it or bypassing it?
Literally, the way the wording is, they set the U Home app as the phone's NFC handler, allowing it to run as a lightweight background service to listen for NFC intents.
Yeah, that's problematic if you do have other NFC use cases. Unless they can piggyback off of that being the default NFC handler. Like, unless they can also use that one, yeah.
Yeah, that's what I don't know. Like, would it work? Would it still work for tap to pay? Would it work? Does it send off to a secondary NFC handler? Can you have multiple? I honestly don't know, and I'm not trying to say it either in like a negative way.
No, it's a good question.
I just really want to know how that works, and I use Android quite a bit, for testing comparisons, but I've never gotten like that deep in the weeds of replacing the NFC handler on an NFC device. So yeah, I'm curious. But
these are only questions you could ask about Android devices anyways. You would never be able to even think about this for an iPhone. That's way too walled garden, closed garden, whatever they call it for iPhone.
It's really... We're just going to be off topic all day today, but I saw this viral video recently of Linus Tech Tips, who was doing, talking about the new iPhones and stuff like that. And he wanted to test the new mics on the new AirPods Pro, and he was not sure how to switch the mic input. Now, to me, as an iPhone user, it seemed really natural, like you see the mic access appearing at the top when you're in the camera or anything that's using the mic. So you're going to use the mic in whatever app, voice recorder, camera, anything. You go into Control Center and you can switch your input there. And he, I guess, spent like 10 minutes digging around like the actual phone's system settings for an input selector of some sort. And he was just blown away by how, dumb iOS was. And he's like, anytime someone says iOS is intuitive, like, I'm just going to show them this video. It took me 10 minutes to find the settings. And I'm not saying that to necessarily, bash Linus Tech Tips, but I just think it's funny, like, as an iOS user, to me, it just seemed natural and obvious exactly where to do that. And yet, coming from someone who was on Android, it was so foreign of where to do that. So everyone who has an Android device right now, the singles of them that are listening to the show specifically are like, it's so easy. This is such an obvious answer, and I can't believe you spent 5 minutes talking about it at this point.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. To me, intuitive means that even someone that doesn't use the system regularly should know where it is. So I guess to Linus's defense, in his defense, maybe that's what he was talking about. But I hear what you're saying. Like, yeah, I would have known exactly where to look and do it within 30 seconds or less on my own iPhone.
Yeah, but maybe, just to continue down that, like, is Linus even the regular user? Because would my grandmother think to go
I need to change my microphone
settings?
Yeah, like, come on.
Yeah. Like, where's the line there? Because I feel like Linus is almost like too techie, like too smart and too in the weeds that he's trying to dig in system settings versus where it's raised to a more easily reachable level, even if it's not obvious. So I don't know, pros and cons for obviously both platforms and everything, but HomeKey essentially comes to Android. So
iPhone is definitely grandma's phone of choice, though. That's I think I saw that on their website.
Apple's great with the marketing. If there's any marketing, it's grandmas love iPhones. That's
and Tim Cook
and Apple Watch.
I think they love Tim Cook too.
Probably. Good morning.
Good morning.
Yeah, just so soothing. So soothing.
Yeah. Okay, I just listened to him for like the first 30 seconds of every keynote for the last 11 years. That's like my my headspace meditation.
Yeah, you're like white noise. Like, I gotta reset.
Good morning.
I just want to, Good morning, Tim. I feel better now. Okay, let's take a break. Let's take our first sponsor for the episode. We got somebody new to talk about today. It is Zapier. And I will tell you, like, first off, I am very cautious about AI stuff. There's like many ways where it gets a little funky and unnecessary, but I've started integrating it more and more into my workflows, and it started to be really useful. Like the basic things like summarizing like the podcast show into like notes, really helpful because I was having to write out multiple paragraphs. I'm like, this is so like, no one's sitting here and like reading this whole thing that it needs to be so techy and stuff. Like I just really need a good SEO optimized description for each episode. And like ChatGPT and other AI bots are able to really do that. And then I use it in similar ways to help with like the YouTube and the video and things like that. It started to become really useful. And I'm even seeing like Faith start to use it in things. So it feels you need to be using it in some way or another. Now, I used to run, for many people that know, marketing, training, a lot of digital marketing, all that kind of stuff in prior lives before doing this. And I'd always seen this company called Zapier that would allow you to connect multiple things to work together, like different platforms, whether it is like forms, whether it is help documents, whether it is internal things, chatbots, all these things together. Well, now they have started to push into the AI aspect as well, and it is so cool. So for Zapier, a few things that you'd be able to do pretty easily. Like you could take a type form, which these really beautiful forms that a lot of companies are using. I used them when I ran digital marketing. But you can take those and then tie those into additional services. So you can take a type form response and use that to create a Zendesk help document. Really handy. You could take a Google ad campaign that you're running and then use that to launch a HubSpot new lead in your HubSpot portal. Or now you're able to use Zapier to create your own AI chatbot. And this is insane to me. And I wish I had this when I was at my old other job, Dan. Like you could literally plug in like your help documents, your support documents, whatever, to train your AI chatbot and then have it going in like minutes. The amount of like help document stuff that I would have to go through and answering questions, and even at the companies I was working at, they were fairly small. Like we didn't have the money and the people to be staffing all these things. If I could just have a chatbot that knew all of our help documents and all of our support documents that could answer customer questions before having to get to an actual support person or a training person or even like a sales lead, that would be amazing. Like completely tailored to that experience, whether it was running, like I was running the digital marketing for a C-store chain or for a software company. This would be amazing. And I was like looking at their demo on how to do it on their website, and it is so cool. Like they literally were like dropping PDFs into it to train it. I'm like, this is mind blowing. How are we here? And how did I do things way harder when I had to do this? I feel like an old person. Like, oh, the kids these days and their automatic AI chatbots. When I created chatbots, I had to. I feel old now. But yeah, it's how you can bring the power of AI to your work and not just talk and hope about it. You can bring the power to any workflow that you're doing, whether it is agents, chatbots, just your internal workflows of combining all of your services together. It's for everybody. And it's like with some of the other sponsors on the podcast that allow it to scale. Like you don't have to be a big company to use this. You can just be starting out, get the benefits of it, and it can grow and scale with you. I just think that is really important and really cool. So teams have already automated over 300 million AI tasks using Zapier. Are you ready to join them? Get started for free by visiting zapier.com/HomeKit. That's zapier.com/HomeKit. Okay, Dan, let's talk about Kohler because you've been to CES. You know how cool their CES exhibits are. They're crazy. They're massive.
They are.
Like
I didn't think toilets and showers and all that can get cool, but yeah, when you visit Kohler's booth and kind of check them out at PepCom and all that stuff, they're always rocking something really innovative and awesome.
I will say, like one of the areas in the home, there's like two areas that I feel like have been a little bit neglected in terms of like smart tech: the bathroom and the outside. And we've seen pushes on both of those fronts recently. We've seen a bunch of outdoor lighting and everything like that come up. And then for the bathroom, we started to see we've had Kohler and Moen that have done like the connected showers for a bit. I think it was on okay, I can't remember, and I'm hoping that this was public and it wasn't like after we turned off the microphones. But Jimmy and Nanoleaf, like we was talking about doing, like they literally looked at doing like a smart fan for a bathroom, I believe, and things like that. And that was really cool. And they ended up, not doing it. But I'm like, that would have been such a neat product to be able to connect in and everything. And there's very few things like that. Well, the Kohler one already supports Apple Home. So it's their Anthem thing, and it goes with the Kohler Connect app to allow it to tie into like Amazon, Google Home, and Apple Home. But now they're also integrating with Control4, which that's one of like the big ones in the smart home space. One of my old bosses, I did a lot of home automation for him before Apple Home ever existed, and he had a Control4 system. And I actually had somebody who had a copy of the Control4 software, because at least then, it might still be the case now, you had to literally pay someone to come out that had the Control4 software to add devices to your home. And they would set it up for you, and you'd pay whatever it was for them to come out, and then you had 2 revisits if you ever changed anything in your setup, and then you had to buy again, which is just crazy that's how we used to have to do smart home. Pay the Geek Squad to show up with their laptop and program.
It wasn't even the Geek Squad. The Geek
No?
Squad would have been easier. It was, yeah, these were like, there's still a huge category, installers, right? Like they just had a Cedia a couple weeks ago. It was like the big installer show.
Yep.
And that's where you find the quote unquote Geek Squad that would come out. Yeah.
Yes.
Wow, this is real OG smart home stuff we're talking about right now.
Oh, for sure. I loved Control4. It worked really, really well. And even compared to some of the stuff now that we end up with, when we try to troubleshoot things out, our camera went offline, or our light's not responding. Like that never happened with a lot of that stuff. Like it was very, very reliable. But the amount to install it, to program it, all of those things was ridiculous. Like it was impossible for your average user. So it was still hard to do. I have not really played with Control4 in years. Have you like played around with them or seen them? Like I don't know, because I don't know if you were at Cedia, but
I've seen them around. I've played with Savant more, which is a big, I would say, like competitor in the market. Yeah, it's exactly what you said. It's reliable, these systems, because they're not consumer friendly from a setup standpoint necessarily. They are getting more consumer friendly, but yeah, it's more like I'm trying to come up with a good analogy. Like the Command app in on Mac OS. That's like the Control4 or Savant setup versus the Home app, Google Home app, Amazon Alexa app. It's like it's the back end setup of smart home to make things work versus the front end consumer facing UI.
Yeah, makes sense. I don't know. It makes me want to play with it again, just to see it, for nostalgia. And I'm curious at how they've evolved, because you have these companies that are large. Like it was basically like, Savant, it was Control4, kind of Logic Harmony on the consumer side of things. Harmony is now gone, and Control4 and the others, obviously they are still completely dominating the installer market. But at what point is it going to still be an installer market versus an average user or setup? There's always going to be overlap, but at what point are they going to? Because it was always like that with the reprogramming and changing things. You didn't have to have somebody else go do it. I don't even know anymore if you still have to or if you can do it yourself.
So what I'll tell you is there's like a hybrid version, like Savant specifically. There are some devices that are super DIY that you just want to be able to do yourself. A light bulb, a smart switch, a power outlet or something like that. Where even if you're not a technical person, you're just some, average Joe that wants to have smart home but doesn't necessarily, you're not you and me, right? Okay. You can plug a smart plug-in or twist a light bulb in and go through the DIY setup process, the commissioning process. But there are definitely some more nitty-gritty technical smart home products. Think smart power, okay, how people are connecting more into, smart energy and smart power from, the grid and solar power and battery storage solutions in their garage. Even things like smart fans or getting really like smart sprinklers, like all that type of stuff. I think that's, by the way, how these companies have evolved. It's just by bringing in more products and categories into the ecosystem. So what Savant does is it allows you to pair, the pro install stuff, the things that are a little bit more nitty gritty, with DIY things as well. And it's why Savant owns Sync by GE Lighting, and so you can pair some of the Sync stuff into the Savant app now and do that yourself. So there's all sorts of like interesting ways to do that. I imagine Control4 has similar solutions as well, but I can't say that with any concrete knowledge.
I always forget that Savant owns the GE Sync line of things. I that one always blanks on me. And then I know, because GE Sync, or I guess Savant, is Max Borges, right?
Yes. That's why I know a little bit more about them, and I've played with them.
and you got Eve. We have Eve on your shirt.
Got Eve.
I can't make out that sign over your shoulder. It's very vague.
I mean that sign. That sign, you don't even have to look over my shoulder. You could probably look at your neighbors' houses and see it there too. And just about anywhere in America.
It's a bright blue secured by ADT sign. The one you'd have like in your front lawn. He's got right over his shoulder. I will say, Dan, when we got our house, there was an ADT sign like already in the yard. I'm like, we're keeping that. Like, I want the sign.
People buy the sign without you can buy it on eBay or whatever. And that's like a big thing we see across the United States for sure.
Yeah. Okay. Let's talk about Aqara. Aqara has a pretty big update out for their app. I'm not getting all the deals, but like Aqara has, like, I like their app quite a bit. And we've talked about how solid their cameras are for booting up and like getting you to that live feed like instantly, which is still crazy to me. I can still attest that like the G5 Pro that I have on my porch is the fastest way for me to see somebody is at my porch. The AI stuff is still not quite there. What happens a lot that I've noticed is there's motion, and then if there happens to be a box on my porch, it'll say there's a package there, like a package was delivered or something, even though that never changed. It was like a leaf moving, but it triggered motion. Then it used AI to determine that there was a package. So it's still like AI is figuring out like things correctly, but not logically. Like I know a package wasn't delivered because it had been there, but it still sees a box and it still kind of goes down that route. I've had another vacuum sitting on my porch for like 2 days because I have not wanted to bring it inside and deal with setting it up and all of that stuff again. So I know I have a giant box sitting on my porch, and Aqara just keeps saying, there's a box, something was delivered. I'm like, just leave it alone.
At this point, you're just messing with the AI.
Yeah. They say in the new features, there's Smart Automations 2.0, which delivers greater control and flexibility with an improved interface, more customization options, and advanced when, if, then logic. One of the examples that they showed off that I really, really like is you can do a conditional for not met. So that means when an automation can react, not just when something happens, but when something doesn't happen. So lights turning on if a door isn't open, or sending a reminder if a sensor doesn't detect motion for a set period of time. And I think that's really cool because those are the automations you can't do really natively in Apple Home. And Aqara is getting just kind of sneaky powerful. Like it really keeps starting to grow up a bit because you have like the ability already to take Matter things and like bring them into Apple Home, like ones that aren't even supported in Apple Home. They literally can still support them in Apple Home by making them into like other device types, like sensors or switches or whatever. And this is really cool. So like I keep doing, I hate kind of venturing outside of Apple Home too much because I like to keep it simple and in there. But then every time like a car comes on, I'm like, man, I start to have ideas on things I could do with a lot of these automations and play with them more and more.
I love that, and I could think of like several use cases I could have used just this week. We have a refrigerator that doesn't close properly if you don't like push it and hold it.
Yeah.
If you just like tap it, it'll pop back open. I want to put a door sensor on there and a contact sensor, and if it doesn't close after 30 seconds, instead of having it beep and wake up my baby who's napping, I just want to get a quick alert to my phone.
There you
or
go.
I want the lights to blink in my office so I can go close it. You know, that's a really solid use case. I think the door one is probably a big one also for the front door. If someone opens the door, it's depending on the state of my alarm or whatever, like I want to know if my kids open the door and don't close it and are letting mosquitoes in at all hours of the night, So that would be another one, like blink red the lights or something, like do something like that where the sensor, the contact sensor is triggering other smart home products to alert me without having to beep or just not know that the door is still open.
Yeah, I think that's really good. They also have this is part of their labs. This is still kind of like beta testing, but they have geofencing 2.0, which is also crazy cool. It supports multi-user and multi-device detection of entry and exit from geofenced areas. So I'm like, I want to play with that. I'm like, how granular can you get with geofenced areas? And I also love that you could do it based on device as well as by person. Like, that's really neat. So more cool stuff with geofencing that's just getting a lot smarter. And they have a new Explore tab, which shows trending community highlights and activities, and services shows frequently used service cards and Aqara features. So making it easier to find new things to do with your smart devices. So a lot of cool stuff coming in that 6.0 update.
Let's focus in on the person stuff for a second, because I think that's like the next generation of smart home is going to be a lot of presence detection based off of people's biometrics. So not like your fingertips or your eyes or whatever, but your phone acting as a biometric for you. When your phone is on you, the Wi-Fi, the Matter, the whatever, the system knows that it's you and counts that as presence. And I think that's going to be huge in home security. Hello. I think it's going to be huge in smart home in general, and all sorts of really cool functionality and automation that's going to come from that.
Yeah, we've talked a lot about what Apple's next step is going to be, and it's definitely going to be very personal, based on you and integrating to the next generation version of this assistant. It's going to be. I was just sitting here listening to us like talk back and forth, and I love having you in the show because one, we end up talking a lot. I don't ever mean to make these episodes so long, but it's also like what happens when you and I don't see each other for a hot second. And then, because this is, like, folks, this is literally what Dan and like are in person. Like, we just talk about these exact same things, but with the mics off. And we just go on and on. And at some point, we're like, wait, should we just like stop talking to each other and just do this on the podcast? Or just carry mics around and we'll just do.
We got to just do that. Save ourselves some podcast time by just recording ourselves at all times.
Yeah, or we'll use Zapier to create an AI reading from our chat logs. It'll have an integration and it'll convert it, and then that's going to upload automatically to Riverside it'll just be an automated AI workflow to automate our text chains into podcast narration.
And then we can just use deepfake Dan and Andrews and have them do the podcast recording for us.
It's either that or
you can't spell
Apple's...
faith without AI. So I'm thinking we could make a faith.ai as well, and that could be some sort of cool thing. Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
Okay. We still have more topics to get to, but let's go ahead and take another break. Thank our next sponsor for the episode. It is Shopify. You guys know I love Shopify. We just talked about it when we were talking about Zapier, because it is one of those things that can scale and grow with you, which I just find so helpful. Like, I hate having those sponsors on the show that are like, we are only for giant companies or we're only for little people. And like, this is like, we love everyone. We can scale with everything. And I think tools like that are really valuable because you can start it off when you are at the beginning, when you were little, and you don't have to switch to something else. Like, can you imagine like starting a business? Like, I don't really know what I'm doing. And it's like, here's a tool that's great for beginners. And then you start going, and you're like, that was great for beginners. Now I need something completely different because I've grown out of my garage and now I have a warehouse. Like, you need something that can grow and scale with you that you don't need to abandon halfway through. That is what Shopify is. You can know literally nothing except for how to knit iPod socks that are now iPhone socks. You're going to make long ones. They're going to be tube socks for the iPhone Air, which is going to be perfect. I'm giving you guys free business ideas right here. But you can knit these little socks. You don't have to know anything else. And you can spin up a website like right away, like in an afternoon. You get a website, start selling. From there, you can grow. You can start managing inventory between a physical store and online. You can add AI to it to help convert people to checkout, answer questions, and all sorts of things like that. As you grow, you can also start adding in plugins to get things real fancy. I know a couple of companies that started using Shopify, and they added plugins to help insure packages, which not only brought them in additional revenue by offering insurance to packages, but also stopped all the problems of packages getting lost or stolen in transit that they would have to then replace. Like, it was just like a win-win. And it was literally, they turned on in like an afternoon through Shopify and things like that. Those integrations are crazy to me, how cool and how easy they are to actually implement. And of course, customers are going to love these things too, just from a shopping perspective. I've spent a lot of time on the Allbirds site recently because they have these new Pantone hues, and I really want some new shoes, and I'm trying not to buy things, but they're really cool. So I keep going back and looking at it, and it's so easy to get into that cart. You get into that cart, and then it's like, oh, you can just buy with Apple Pay, Andrew. It would take you 1 second. All you got to do is just scan your face. Just do it. Just scan your face, and you have some new shoes. It would be great. Everyone would be happy. I've held off, but it's definitely tempting just to complete that checkout process. Apple Pay, Google Pay, Shop Pay. When you're on like a known device, it like recognizes you and it's like, hey, Andrew, I already texted you a code, and you can automatically have it autofill because your Apple devices autofill things for you. So I was able to authenticate it to you with two-factor authentication, and all you have to do is click the button and you're good to go when you've checked out. Then your purchases all kicked over to the Shop app. You can track them, leave reviews, leave feedback. You can see when it's getting delivered. It'll integrate into Apple's Wallet app. Also really cool. Like, you guys know I can talk about Shopify for the rest of the episode, but Dan and I have more things to talk about, so I'll leave you with this. Turn your big business idea into with Shopify on your side. Sign up for a $1 per month trial and start selling today at shopify.com/HomeKit. That's all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/HomeKit. Shopify.com/HomeKit. Dan, let's talk about Starling. I mentioned it briefly in the last episode, but I did not know this until you texted it to me. I did not know that Starling was done. And I am very sad because it is what enabled Apple Home support on all these Nest devices that did not have it. And it was such a
sad.
great product.
Let me just check the autopsy report real quickly, though. Oh, death
Dan
by
pulls
tariff.
out a giant,
Oh, man.
big manila folder right
Yeah.
there. Death by tariffs. Yep.
It's
I'm sure
sad. We're going to see this more, though.
I'm about to say, I'm sure from your side of dealing with these businesses as more of like an internal thing across the board, you're seeing a lot of like push and pull on that, like of uncertainty on launching new products, on price points, on market, like on all of these things.
Where they
I'm
should
sure
launch
it's coming
first.
up a lot.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of.
Yeah.
Well, it's not just brands that are quote unquote dying by tariff, but a lot of products on the roadmap for the next 12, 16, 18, 24 months or so. They're either getting pushed, killed, or only launching in certain regions, like starting in Canada, not coming to the US anytime soon, things like that. And it's pretty sad for the world of technology, and Starling specifically. I mean, that was such a great brand. I hope someone picks up where they left off, or at the very least that, Matter eventually kind of does what they're trying to do with camera integration and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, it got me thinking about all the ways companies and products die off. I thought it could be a depressing but fun game we could play if you want.
Well, I mean, I'm thinking about like so many, especially in like the tech space. Like it's hard to punt some things down the line because like you're trying to be quick and I mean, looking just at cases, right? Like that's the big thing right now is everyone's dealing with these iPhone cases. You already have the uncertainty on for sure what the new phones are going to be like, and then you're also dealing with like the tariff impacts and stuff at the same time. But if you delay those cases by any period of time, you're going to miss that big buying rush. And we're getting into like Qi 2.2 stuff. What are you going to do? You're going to punt your Qi 2.2 charger 6 months or a year down the line, at which point we've got Qi 2.3. Like,
no, you're just going to raise your prices. And
yeah,
either the consumer's going to have to swallow that pill or the brand is going to have to swallow that pill. Or you punt and your competitor doesn't punt. And you're SOL at that point. It's a big problem, and I'm seeing a lot of this internally on the brand side. Back to Ecovacs for a second, and just the robotics category in general. That's why you see in the robotics category so many flagship and mid-tier launches per year. It's because these companies cannot wait another cycle or another quarter to come out with their latest and greatest innovation, because if they do, they risk not being the ones to bring it to market. They risk the competitor doing it And so there's just this battle. There's like, if everyone in the category would just agree, okay, let's limit it to, a winter launch and a and a summer launch, or just once a year, like how great would that be? I mean, it's too kumbaya for business, but that would be amazing. But it's not happening, and so they're all just at each other's throats, launching and launching and launching every chance they come up with.
Yeah. I don't know. The smart home space I feel like is already hard enough, and then we're seeing, because that's just one company and a couple products, basically one two products. Um, I don't know how how everyone else is faring. I know it's been definitely hard. I know Nanoleaf was doing a lot. Jimmy was pretty proud of their stuff in a very competitive space with smart lighting. And they've been doing a good job of getting, into retail, broadening their portfolio with non-thread based ones for average consumers, and getting into Walmart and stuff. So like they've been doing quite a few. They also came out that face mask, which I'm very curious at how that is going. Like aggressive price point and kind of leaning on their technology of like LED stuff, but in a face mask situation. So yeah, I don't know. I'm just bummed. I'm really bummed.
I met with some clients from China recently, and they were telling me that it's like this fascination in the Chinese market why the US market is obsessed with smart lights, and they don't get it. And I'm like, what do you mean you don't get it? Smart lights are amazing. Like I have them in every single room of my house. I have them outside. I have them inside. Like and I couldn't quite like pinpoint it. Like maybe why do we love smart lights?
Well, I don't. Okay, well, I feel like there's like three different things to them. So first you have like the convenience of like just like the automations and turning on and off and stuff like that. Then you've got like just the fun stuff of colors and like the theming and all those. And then I don't know, like to me, they're also generally like, they're a little more eco-friendly because you're spending the money on the light. Like let's not ignore that, but they're able to turn off when they're not being used, and they're usually LED and things like that. So they're not going to be like incandescent bulbs that are
There you go.
consuming more energy to burn. So I feel like
Yeah.
there's like multiple benefits to them, and I don't know what generally the broad appeal is. My only guess is that it is the simplest thing that you can turn on and off. Like you can see it, obviously,
Yeah.
turning on and off. Like things like sensors are always kind of like hard.
They're
Like
back end. They're like working in the background. Whereas lights are very tangible. You can program them, like you said, to do different colors and everything. I like another part of like this is kind of not eco, but it is. Like instead of, getting up and putting up your Christmas lights once a year and then having to take them down and then, storing them or throwing them out or them getting ruined in storage or something, you put up, where do I've got another brand over here. Just the Eternity lights from in Brighton. You put them up once, you turn them off, or you use them throughout the year for other things. Instead of just for the holidays, you could use them for game day or the Super Bowl if your favorite team is playing, or whatever it is. If your kids are coming home from school and want to talk about, I don't know, bees and how they produce honey, you can make them black and yellow. You can use them for other things. I think that's like the other part is like the permanence and the customizability, like you were talking about.
yeah, I mean to me that was really like the. I guess like when I started doing smart home stuff, there was two things that I did. One, it was the lights, and then two, it was the TV because I
Yeah.
had like the Harmony remote, Universal remote, and I mean back then I had like a receiver and speakers and all of the like an input switcher. Like I guess that was the receiver, but then I had to go like the wireless system and stuff. Like it was a lot of things that I'd have to like automate. So I was turning on the TV, controlling the volume through the receiver, and then an Apple TV. So it was like three different devices I would need remotes for at least, not including like the PlayStation in the mix. So it was usually like four or more devices in there. So it was nice that you could have like this remote to control all of those. And then with the lights, I had like the OG Wemo ones were my first real like turn on and off kind of like
R.I.P.
smart device.
Yeah.
Yeah, another one that we can just pour one out for. But
Death
they had
by
like the big
acquisition.
no, they just no. I just think it's the state of things right now, and I always heard that like Wemo was like a critical darling, and the press loved Wemo, and it was fun. But I don't think it. I mean, they had Apple deals, right? Like all the Wemo stuff was sold through Apple. They partnered with Apple on creating a lot of those smart things. I mean, they had the first little button, right, with Thread, the Wemo Stage scene controller. But I think, one, Matter didn't come along fast enough. Like, because they announced Matter support quick, and then they were like, yeah, about that. We're going to hit the brakes and just evaluate. And then eventually they just quietly killed the brand. I don't think there was enough. I think tariffs probably could have impacted that, because that's going to jack up their cost of goods on an already small category for Foxconn.
But
And
this was pre-tariffs, no? The Wemo death?
no, Wemo death was like earlier this year. I mean, Trump has
Really?
technically been like talking about tariffs like for a while.
Right. So it
but
could have
I
been
believe,
just like the
official death was
anticipatory.
now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They
mean, it's just gonna make things
Belkin
harder.
owned Wemo, right? Mm-hmm. So so they killed them, and for those reasons. All right, interesting.
Yeah, could just be a combination of everything.
Yeah.
Small space, increase.
Way to bring
prices
Wemo
on
up
it,
though,
and
because
Matter
that got
being
us back
slow.
on track here with the topic at hand.
True story. Like, we went back to smart lights and circle back to that. Okay, I want to wrap this up with talking about the Amazon event, but I'm going to take one more break. I think our last sponsor for the show. I've been using them for months now, and I still love it. I still check in with the app to see where my health stuff is. It is Function. It is about taking that control over your health. I talk about so many different smart health devices that I've used in the past, between my CGM, my smart scales, like the Apple Watch. I just wrote my Apple Watch Series or SE3 review, up for Apple Insider. It's probably up by the time you guys are seeing this. And I love being able to monitor so much health stuff. And even on like that basic entry-level wearable, it still tracks so many things. And it's still about protecting you, about your heart, all these different things that it's able to take care of. And that is why I liked Function, because it's allowing you to affordably basically take care of like your health and not relying necessarily on trying to schedule doctor appointments. Like, Faith just tried to schedule a doctor appointment to see like her endo or something, and like, oh yeah, we can definitely get you in sometime in 2026. And it's like, this is insane. And if you wanted to get like labs done, because you're like, what are my levels, what is my stuff at, like, how do I even know these things? Like, you don't know, and then you have to get an appointment through a doctor's office and all that stuff just to get them, and then you have to wait for them to respond and look at things, and it just seemed like it was always such a hassle. So when Function was like, hey, can we sponsor the show? And I'm like, I looked into this, I'm like, this is just the coolest thing. Like, you can just I set everything up. I went in like the next day and got a blood test, and within a couple days after that, results start showing in. And they're not just random numbers like I see in my chart from my doctor's office that it's like, cool, your number is 1.2. I'm like, I don't even know what that means, and I'm left Googling or using ChatGPT to tell me if I'm dying or not, while I wait for my doctor to look at those results and respond. Function,
Who's
like,
also probably using ChatGPT right now. Just
right. Yeah, that's actually a Zapier integration to automate tests from the lab and interpreting them for people. But no, like, I was literally having to go and look these values up, like, for different, like, all, because you do like a blood panel and they have a whole bunch of things come up, and I don't know what these are. I'm not a doctor. So when Function like gives me my results and I can see where my value is at, what is normal, what is elevated, or what is low, and then it gives me like a real English normal person breakdown of what that is, why it's important, and what the impacts of that are, I just think is so cool and so valuable. And I think Function gets even better over time, because you can do this just once and be happy, but you can also repeat it after 6 months or a year, after you start to make lifestyle changes. Like, you saw these numbers with like over 100 different things they can do in just the base test, and you can start to like changing your multivitamin. So like, I did switch to a new multivitamin that includes some of the deficiencies that I had noticed that were contributing to things like being tired. And now, even with a baby that has a couple rough nights of sleep, I feel pretty good. And all of us have been kind of sick, and I haven't been sick lately. And I'm like, man, I feel like I'm doing well for a time of year. Like, just, I feel better. And it could completely be just in my head, or it could be some of these actual changes that I've been making because of Function. It's just so cool to see that. And then, of course, you do get an actual medical breakdown after all of your results come in. A doctor goes in and summarizes all of your results for you and can give you actionable items to help improve your health. And they're not selling you things, right? It's not going to be like some other service that's like, man, you definitely need this thing. Here, buy our vitamin to fix it. Like, no, they're just giving you the information and giving you the knowledge to do what you need to do, whether it is go see a doctor about a potential issue or just, taking a vitamin that could help with something that you've been noticing. So I just think that knowledge, that power is incredibly cool. So check it out if you want. You can learn more and join using my link. Function is a near 360 view to see what's happening in your body, and my first 1,000 listeners get a $100 credit towards their membership. Visit www.functionhealth.com/HomeKit or use gift code HomeKit100 at sign up to own your health. Let's wrap this up, Dan. We have a event coming up. I'm not going, but an event coming up that's not an Apple event. It is the Amazon Fall event.
Definitely some Apple implications. From Amazon and Google next week is supposed to be launching some Gemini in the home stuff too. Yeah.
I keep missing it. I have been so heads down with cranking out phone reviews, videos, compares, watches, everything. So I have missed a lot of news this week. But yeah, we're going to have, I guess technically it is this week, I say, based on the day that we're recording this and when the episode is dropping. Because the Amazon event is the 30th. And I don't know when I just knew the
next day.
The Google
is
one,
Google.
I kept hearing October. Okay, October 1.
So I'm hearing 10/1 for Google, 9/30 for Amazon. So, and Amazon is for devices and services. They haven't done one of these in a couple of years, which is probably smart. But if you recall, Andrew, when they did these events, they could launch 30 different products, like a microwave and a clock and whatever. Yeah, I could be wrong, but I have a feeling they're going to be more focused this year on, the Echo Show and Echo and some Kindle stuff, but like the flagship devices and services products, plus a lot of, Alexa Plus and all that extra AI goodie.
Yes, yeah. I think that is going to be that common thread through everything that they are going to be showing off. I mean, they haven't updated a few of their speakers in like a hot second. Like the flagship Echo speaker hasn't been updated in 5 years. I think it was like 2020. And then if I remember the Dot, which was quite popular, that was 2022 at this point. Because I remember like that fall seeing like you would go to freaking Best Buy and they're like, here, you want a couple? And they'd like throw them in your bag. Like they just were giving those things out like candy, which is like no wonder Amazon has taken over so much of the smart voice speaker market for reasons like that. The Pop didn't come out. That was 2023. So that's still been at least 2 years. So there's a lot of devices that they could update, let alone completely new ones. And then the Show, like you said, that one they have the Look. That's newer, right? Is that the one for the wall?
Yeah, the wall calendar type one, yeah.
Yeah, but I don't know when the last time they updated the Show was. That's definitely been...
It's been years. It's been years for sure. And listen, you've been heads down on new phones and watches and AirPods and everything. They've been heads down for years trying to make AI work. And Google too, and Apple too. So that's why I'm saying there's Apple implications on this stuff next week, because what you're seeing from Amazon, what you're going to see from Google, there's no doubt in any of our minds that Apple is working on something similar. It's been well reported by Gurman and the likes that they are no longer treating home as a hobby per se, as they have in the past. And so I think what we see next week from their two biggest smart home competitors is a good indicator of the beginnings of what we might see from Apple in 2026 and beyond, or before.
What I thought was, true. We're still hearing those rumors that a new HomePod Mini and Apple TV are launching this year.
Yeah.
But here's what I think is interesting. Everyone has said, for a while now, how behind Apple is in this space, and now here we are, basically, a couple months maybe, that's it, only ahead of where Apple is going to supposedly announce their smart display, a big new HomePod, and we're having new HomePod Mini now that is all supposed to support Apple Intelligence. Like, how are they really even that far behind? Because
I don't think so. Yeah.
There was like that middle gap of where it's like it kind of has it's like they were better smart speakers, but they didn't have actual as much of the AI stuff. Like obviously Amazon's Assistant could do things for ages that the Apple ones couldn't do, or at least had to be done in a more roundabout way, like using a shortcut or something. But I know people who are using their Amazon speakers to create a story with like their kid's favorite character eating what they were having for dinner that night. So like if Harrison, I mean, he likes pretty much everything, but here, eat these beans. I think beans are gross. And if I was trying to make Harrison do it, I'm like, tell us a story, Amazon. And Amazon would read a story about how Bluey was just chowing down on some beans. And then maybe Harrison would be like, oh, I want to be like Bluey and eat some beans. Like, people were doing things like that. Like, there was a lot you could do with them that you could not do, still can't do with Apple's Assistant. But that was kind of like the middle ground. And now we've just kind of leapfrogged to the next spot, which is the AI integration.
Yeah.
Amazon kind of launched it with the, I don't want to say the name, but the A word plus at the end. That's their AI integration. Gemini is coming to Google Home also next week. They've been teasing that for a hot second. So we're really kind of only a couple months behind of where Apple is supposed to be doing basically the same thing.
I think the best analogy to use is, like a sports game. Okay, let's say hockey. Okay, you can win a period, but there's a whole game. And I feel like we got to the third period, the end of the third period, and everyone's tied, and we're in overtime now. And it's a new game. It's 0-0 essentially. And I wouldn't say sudden death, because I think there could be multiple winners here for multiple different customers and people, many different types of customers and people. But it's a new game. Everyone was kind of a slave. Amazon, Google, Apple, they were all a slave to AI and its technology and how far it's come and its development. And then over the last couple of years, things have really started to pick up, and they had to all figure out how they're going to make this work in home and in their smart home. And now we're starting to see that all come to fruition. In true Apple fashion, they are not going to be first here, but that doesn't mean they're behind. It just means they're figuring it out in their own unique way and what's going to work for them. I'm not trying to be some Apple fanboy here, because trust me, I've been super critical of them lately in a lot of ways, but I just don't think first to market is the winner here in smart home. We've seen that. If anything, we've seen that now with Google and Amazon, and Apple being back at that same point, right? They were all first to market. Apple kind of approached it in their own way, and lo and behold, we're back here again, tie game, ready for extra innings, overtime, whatever you want to call it, and we'll see who kind of comes out on top.
Yeah, it's like Apple skipped an entire inning of that middle ground where they could do extra things. They just skipped it entirely, and then they're showing up at the end. So we're going to see. I think Apple's market share is going to increase a lot with these new products, and especially as they continue to hit that privacy topic, like privacy
That'll
and security. That's been what was it, a CES? They had the giant billboard that was mocking Google's privacy or whatever.
Yeah.
They've been doing so much in that space, and I think people are starting to really hone in on that.
And the AI part is going to be more interesting, right? Privacy from AI or with AI, and how they kind of bake that into having. Listen, it's your home. It is an intimate part of your life that you're giving access to. Pretty insanely awesome technology. So the privacy is going to be a big deal, and I think there's always going to be skeptics, but whoever can kind of message around the privacy or towards the privacy without pretending like it's not a problem, pretending like it doesn't exist, is going to be a big boon for that company for sure.
It's going to be very hard to nail that messaging. I think it's really huge. You have to make sure that people care about it, and in some regard, people don't, because they've been putting Amazon speakers in their homes for years, and there's this weird barrier in people's minds. And I know I've talked about my best friends, our neighbors, for many times before in the past, but he was someone who's I don't trust all this smart stuff. I don't want to do anything. I don't even want to put a smart thermostat into my home because I don't trust it and they're going to listen in or something. And then at the same time, he has both a Google Home and an Amazon speaker, one downstairs and one upstairs, because he got them for free with some purchase. I'm like,
make it work. Make it make sense. Yeah.
Yeah. I was like, but you could literally, I'm like, just, you could save money with a thermostat. Right? I can give you one. I've got a bunch. I can give you one. You will save money by intelligently controlling your air, turning off, like you've got kids that go in and out of your house all day. They open up that sliding door, you turn off the heat, or you turn off the AC so that you're not heat and warm in the outside. And like just basic things like that. And it was like, I don't trust it. But then at the same time, he's like, they're putting in, an Amazon that was literally, they were using it to advertise to and harvesting data and selling it and everything like that. It was like,
Yeah, to me, the bottom line is if you want AI to impact your life, which I think most people are going to want that, especially the next generation who's growing up with it and it will be so secondhand nature for them, then the only way for it to truly impact your life is to give it more personal information. And I don't mean give it that information for nefarious use, but an AI can only infer and learn so much from digital content. It needs access to your physical surrounding, your physical context, to really give it the data points to help it make better decisions on your behalf, agentically. So, yeah, that's why there's this merger, this marriage between smart home and AI right now. It's not just to make smart home better, but it's so that as AI becomes more coupled into our lives, it has access to that information that it needs and again, in a private way. Hopefully, that's what these companies will focus on. But to give it the context that it needs to really become that awesome, promise of agentic AI that we're all hoping for.
yeah, I mean, the amount of stuff that it could do in the smart home that is predictive would be amazing. And it's literally what we've been building for the last decade of doing smart home. But like, I literally just before we recorded this podcast, I was reading, I can't remember the studio, whoever did like the John Wick movies, it might be Lionsgate, but they had announced a while ago that they had partnered with a generative AI platform they were literally, their plan was to feed it their movies and then it would output anime versions of them. Like that was their plan, and then they would like release and sell the anime versions of their movies that would be completely done with AI. And what they found was, holy smokes, does it require much, much, much more data and training than they had ever anticipated. Like they said the entirety of the Disney library would not be enough data to really do what they had been trying to do. And that's what I think like with the smart home is like, we're going to need so much data, but at the same time, like I don't want like our whole personal lives being uploaded to the cloud and used for, training and stuff. It gets really weird. So where are you going to get that amount of data in a secure and private way to train these things with? And obviously we have seen from Apple's muted efforts, like they are trying, like they're doing so much stuff on device. Because I even talked about like reviewing the phones now, people, or even the operating systems, people want to do like, they'll install like iOS 26 or something on a secondary device. I'm like, you can't even do it anymore, because if you were actually going to review it, it needs your data on your device to do so many things, like locally, the predictive stuff. Like it is a little magical, just the littlest thing of like going into Control Center, and it's like based on the room in your house, because it knows you connected to a nearby HomePod, so it knows like you walked into your bedroom after 9 o'clock at night, you probably want to turn on your headboard light, like something like that. Like they're able to start to use AI to bring those things together just to surface a control inside a Control Center. And then the next step of being able to do it automatically is going to be really cool. But it's going to need so much data or on-device processing to make happen.
Yeah, probably a good place for us to stop. But
100%.
I just one quick thing for me. That Apple TV show Dark Matter. Did you ever watch that?
Not all of it.
Okay, excellent show. Even better book. The guy that wrote that book, Blake Crouch, I think is his name, has another
I
book.
did see that one.
Excellent show. So I'm reading another one of his books called Upgrade now, and I'm blanking on the name of that movie from years ago, like a couple decades ago. I think it was with Tom Cruise, where they can like predict if you're going to commit a crime, and then they go stop you from committing the crime.
Is it, total the Recall?
No,
I'm blanking now.
I'll find it and I'll send it to you later. It was a great movie. But it was like very futuristic also. Anyways, in this book Upgrade, they have this one thing that's like, it's like predicting crime or predicting if you're going to do something that's like a crime against humanity with regards to gene editing. And all you have to do was like you had these, you or I, a worker in the government, inserting like answers to 20 basic questions about a person. And then from there, the AI using digital clues. So like you give them the physical clues, and then using digital clues, the AI can infer whether that person is a risk to commit a crime against humanity with gene editing. And so to your neighbor's defense, because I don't want to sound like this guy that's just like all in on AI and like I'm totally fine with putting all this stuff in my home. I have nothing to hide in my home, right? Like I'm not concerned that Amazon's listening to my wife and I's conversations with our kids or whatever. My bigger concern is that one day all this information that's being used to train AI properly and like doesn't really matter to me is used for something else like that's more nefarious. That's like, oh, maybe Dan's going to commit a gene editing crime even though he couldn't pass his high school biology class. And so like I don't want it to like make those types of assumptions about me and my family and whatever, and like kind of get that. I don't want government to have access to my privacy in that way, but a tech company, I don't know. Well, maybe I know, but who's to say who's who these days?
Well, because I think that trying to cut this off, but the next step isn't just like the microphones or presence sensor. It's using cameras in the home. And that, I think, because then they're going to have to be rolling basically around the clock. And then what happens when government has access to that data that's been collected? And that is, I think, really where that privacy stuff has to come in and security stuff, because you need it. Like, it needs to know who's in the room. Yeah. Apple's new device launching this spring is supposedly be able to recognize people based on like the back of their heads and stuff, to know not just based on voice, but to be able to provide that personalized context. So it's really crucial, but that's why I like that Apple does so much locally. Like their video is processed locally for like the HomeKit Secure Video AI.
There you go.
It's not being uploaded to the cloud to do that. So I don't know. Obviously, there's a lot of speculation. Lots of speculation,
but there's going to be different flavors of how this all plays out, and that's why we do this podcast. That's why you have me on sometimes. I love talking about this stuff with you and seeing where all this kind of pans out. So have me back. I'm excited to be talking about this when Apple finally puts whatever their solution is out.
For sure. So it'll be an exciting week for everybody. Let us know what you think. You can watch the video version of this podcast over at youtube.com/HomeKit Insider. You can ask me questions at Andrew_OSU over on Twitter. You can also email me at Andrew@appleinsider.com. You can find me on all the other platforms as well. Just look for my name, and I'm sure it'll come up because I'm, all of the places. Dan, anywhere you'd like to point anyone?
Just special shout out to the lovely Eve over here, who is turning 10 years old next year.
Oh, yeah, next month, wanted to talk about that was in our notes, but we got very caught up with everything else.
You know what?
I wanted to talk about Eve and everything.
Yeah, we'll talk about them another time, but just be on the lookout next month for some fun news from Eve as they celebrate their 10-year anniversary. Prime Day and all that's coming first, but after all that, there'll be a nice anniversary celebration. So go check out evehome.com in about 15 days, and we'll look out for Andrew's posts about it or in the podcast as well when he talks about this next.
Yeah, for sure. We'll mention it in there. Everybody else, go ahead and leave the podcast a 5, 10, 100-star rating on your podcast player of choice. And otherwise, we'll see you guys next week.
See you guys. Thank you.